Welcome to this Core Worlds presentation. And I'm sorry a bit about the screen share, but we're going to have to go with it like this for now because I'm having a few issues trying to get the full screen on. But I'm going to talk you through it. So basically, this is a revision of our chapter number 10, also known to some of the core members as handbook number 10. And basically, it talks about our life mission. Before we start, I would just like to give you all a caveat, a warning, that as a seeker, we always advise, believe nothing. Don't believe me, don't believe anything you see. Doubt everything, but do seek your own truth. Read, research, find out for yourself. These presentations are meant to motivate you to do that. So without delaying you guys much, hopefully this will not be a long presentation. I'm looking at 21 to 25 minutes at max at most. And if you have questions, we'll try to take them in the chat afterwards. And if not, then I would encourage you to please email us either on the Facebook page for Core Worlds or to the Core Worlds coordinator email address. So going forward with this presentation, I am going to click on this. So let me just do a quick introduction for the Core World program. Basically, the Core World program comprises of 33 handbooks or 33 chapters. The first part, it comprises of 11 chapters, and the first 11 chapters are dedicated to an introduction to our unconscious process through self-examination. This chapter 10 today is part of the first 11. After we're done with the first 11, we go on to the next 11, which give us a closer look at certain ancient traditions, which we believe are the key to Gnosis. And the last 11 represent a guide through a transformative process, which means we apply the knowledge we've gained from the first 11, and we also apply the information we receive from the second 11 to hopefully in the last 11 try to use that information to transcend, to change into something that is much better and higher than what we were before. Before we start, again, I'd like to ask you all to please keep a clean slate of mind. Again, doubt everything, and again, let go of your conditioning. We have all been conditioned over the years since we were children to believe certain things. If we are seeking truth that may not be directly in alignment with the conditioning we've had when we were kids or conditioning we've had through dogma or any other teaching. We believe that we all have this desire for knowledge, especially those of you that are here today that are seeking the truth. Before I go further, I also want to say that in the Core World curriculum, we speak a lot about the Hermetic teachings. And today I want you all to please take note of two specific teachings. There's a third one which I will mention in the presentation, but these two are out of the 7 Hermetic principles. Those two are the principle of mentalism. Mentalism explains the nature of energy, power, and matter as being subordinate to the mind because it shows up within ourselves. Mentalism is one of the most important principles of Hermeticism. And the second principle, which I would like you to take note of, is that the Hermeticists believe that even our thoughts have their own vibration. That thoughts can be controlled just like you tune an instrument. And you will see how when I proceed with the presentation. Because once we understand our vibration, once we understand our frequency, once we understand the importance of harmony inside us, then we will know how to tune our thoughts like an instrument. I want to do one more thing before we proceed, and I want to discuss one more issue. And all this is because it's important that we understand that these teachings are not basic teachings. These teachings may not be understood or may not be accepted by a lot of people. So these teachings are not your average person's mindset or teachings. So with that in mind, I'd like to tell you that what we are really doing here when we talk of spirituality, when we talk of gnosis, of understanding ourselves and reality of the world around us, we are really playing what I call the consciousness game. It's a game between our consciousness, which is your brain now, which perceives your five senses: your hearing, smelling, seeing, feeling, and which one am I missing? Fifth one. So that consciousness, which represents your five senses, communicates with your subconsciousness. So if you like, there are two people inside you. There is an external person that sees, hears, and smells and feels, and there is an internal person that sits inside and that has all the information, and he doesn't like sharing it with the external guy. He just tells him very little of what he's thinking and what he's really doing. And he has the power to influence the life that the external guy lives. This is the game. If we look at science and spirituality today, 2019, we will find that they're both converging. For the first time, we find that science is catching up with spirituality. When we are told that we are beings of light, today science has shown us that our atoms are actually revolving around themselves within our bodies at a speed that is close to the speed of light. We've seen that quantum physics have shown us that when we observe something, we manifest our reality. And you can see a lot of experiments that show you that. For example, the double slit theory. Make a note of that. Go check it out on YouTube after this presentation, and you will understand what I mean by quantum physics is showing us how reality truly manifests. So what defines us externally? We all know: home, job, car, toys, whatever we're doing. Internally, what defines us? The inside guy that I spoke about, the subconscious. It defines us, our state of existence, our harmony within. So for us to have the inside guy and the outside guy speak to each other, we need to achieve a mastering of our body, mind, and soul. And I will go through that in the presentation. Don't worry too much about all this, okay? But all you need to do, worry or know about, is that the first step to understanding all this is to know ourselves. So in the next three slides, which represent the main presentation today of chapter 10, which is the finding out your life mission, I will focus on two things. One thing will be to examine, look at things, see how they are, understand how they are, and the second part will be for us to create. So examine, create. In the next three slides, which form the basis of this presentation, we are going to examine and create in every slide. And I want you to please try to keep up with this. This presentation and the slides are going to be saved on our YouTube channel, so you can come back to them at any time that you wish. So we start the presentation today with this slide, which is entitled that for us to find out our life mission, we need to ensure that our energy is in harmony with the divine essence. Let's start off with, let's explain to ourselves what's energy. The first thing that you ask, if you ask any scientist or any professor, what is energy? The first thing is he will explain to you a physical force. We are not discussing the physical energy here. We are trying to perceive a spiritual energy. In chapter 10, you are taught, or you are asked to do a small experiment and sit in a quiet room with the lights slightly dimmed and try to perceive the energy that is around you. We know that there is energy in everything. Even science has proven to us today that there is a vibration that is going on even in inanimate objects like a table or a chair or another human being. So basically, energy is the spiritual energy that is present in us and around us. And when we look at that energy in us and around us, we ask the mind to try to explain to us what is it that we're seeing around us. And the first thing that the mind might tell you is they will say, oh, I can see around me the energy of those I love. I can see around me the energy of my friends. I can see around me the energy of my family. So once the mind has told you these things, once the mind has labeled those things, friends, family, love, automatically, once that is done, then the mind has automatically created in the subconscious the exact opposite of those. The mind has now created enemies, hatred, and anything that is in exact opposite to what the energy, to what the positive things that the mind has labeled. So therefore, automatically, we have now created a conflict with our own subconsciousness, because when there is friends, where there is friends, there are enemies. Where there is love, there is hatred. So already there is a conflict. So how do we manifest harmony? If we have looked at energy, we have looked at how this energy can be manifested in a disharmonious way. For us to apply a harmonious result for this, we need to apply the Hermetic law of polarity. And basically, what polarity says is, it says that basically it's a mental alchemy of transmutation. So polarity is not a difference between two things. It is not a complete opposite. It is more an expression of the same thing. So water can be can, let's say, be, instead of saying it can be hot and cold, we can say water can be cold or lukewarm, or maybe cold and slightly warm. So the variance between those two, when we apply the law of polarity, must be small. It cannot be complete opposites. So instead of saying we have friends and we have enemies, we can say we have friends and we have motivators. So what have we done? We have tricked our subconscious mind to believe that we don't have enemies. We have people that motivate us to work harder. And those people, they may come up against us and not agree with everything we say, but at the end of the day, they are not enemies. In a fraternity, we always say we have brothers and we have adversaries. The adversary may be my adversary today, but definitely tomorrow he is my brother again. He is just only trying to, he may disagree with me with a point, but the essence, the inner essence, he is still my brother. So the same thing is very important for us to achieve this harmony. And for us to find out our mission in life, it is important that we do not create an inner conflict between the consciousness and subconsciousness, which is why I wrote here that the elimination of conflict is done by redefining kinetics. And kinetics are basically your definitions. As I said, hatred and love, friend and enemy can be redefined with friend and motivator, and love, basically. So you love your motivator, you love everybody. If you put your state of mind in that category, then you have eliminated the conflict that is within. Even if you don't feel the conflict, it is there unless you define it. So you must label it as such. Science has shown us that we are more than atoms and molecules. Science has said that they have proven actually, and you can read about that yourself, that we are beings that emit, communicate, and are formed from light. So even science today has caught up with this spiritual theories that have been formulated thousands and thousands of years ago. And I'd like to read this quote to you. It says here, on the power of intention, it says that intention is defined as a directed thought to perform a determined action. Intention is defined as a directed thought to perform a determined action. What does this remind you of? The power of attraction. So there's a science behind this power of attraction. There's a science behind intention. When we have thoughts that are targeted to a specific end, those thoughts can basically influence all living things around us. So that means the emission of those thoughts, or the emission of those light particles, or the emission of those biphotons, whatever you want to call it, basically, with intention, those emissions can influence things around us. If you focus enough, and if you are in harmony with your subconscious, then you will be able to do that. And once you do that, you can affect other living creatures, as well as you can influence the subconscious mind. If you want to consider that outside the world, fine. If you want to consider that within, that's also fine. So basically, this slide talks about what is energy? How do we manifest it? How manifest it in a harmonious way within, and how do we use that harmonious state of existence within us to push the power of intention? I'll move on to the next slide. So now that we've understood what energy is, and now that we've understood how we need to use it, now let us discuss how do you master this energy. So chapter 10 talks to you about nocite ipsum, know thyself, which is the basic premise for the entire organization of core worlds. Nocite ipsum is the foundation, the very foundation of every single lesson that we are taught. If we look at, let us examine and then create, as I said before. So if we want to examine, let us look at our thought patterns, expectations versus desires. I expect to be fit, but I desire to eat a burger. Okay? I expect to be very energetic, but I desire to stay late at night and watch a movie till 2 a.m. every morning and then have chocolates before I sleep. I have pains versus pleasures. If we watch ourselves, just read the way you behave, look at your daily behavior, look at your expectations inside, what you really expect, and then examine your desires and try to see how distant they are from each other or how close they are from each other. Another thing you can examine, and this is very important, examine your choice of words during the day. A lot of us, without without feeling or without thinking, would say things to ourselves, maybe within our own mind, or sometimes we blurt it out quietly. We say, oh, I'm tired. Oh, I'm not up to this. Oh, I don't want to do this anymore. It's been a long day, it's been a long month. I wish I can just go and rest at home. This is too much of a trouble for me. This is too negative for me. I just like this. These words that we are constantly saying to ourselves constitute this thoughtless communication, constitute a reality as well within us. So how do we change? They create a symphony of harmony by doing two things. The expectations and the desires have to, the gap has to close. So if I'm going to say I expect to be fit, my desire is going to be, I desire to do 5 kilometers tomorrow morning and run or fast walk 5 kilometers tomorrow. So my expectation and my desire are in line with each other. My words must be in line as well, and emotions. So I should say, you know what? I'm successful. You know what? I can easily do this. I can get this job done with my eyes closed. I am the best. I have the confidence to overcome any obstacle that comes my way. You know what? This is going to be the best day of my life. This is going to be the most successful day of my life. When we do these things, we are just starting to master our life energy. And I'll read to you the quote I have at the bottom. I wrote here that it is of vital importance that we be careful of what goes into the subconscious minds, because words and thoughts that are repeated often get stronger by repetition. This is why you see a lot of dogmatic teachings and religions ask followers to repeat the teachings over and over and over until they sink into the subconscious minds. So it's very, very important for us to understand that this is an integral part of how we master our life energy. I'll move on to the third and most important, I think, slide of the trying to understand energy and our life energy and the way it influences us, so that we can begin to formulate our life mission. And let us look at how our bodies are affected even by the subconsciousness. So not only is our energy affected, and not only is the mind perceiving everything, and not only our expectations and desires, but also our bodies are affected. If we look at people that have the dissociative identity disorder, which we all know as the multiple personality disorder, science has shown us EEG tests and a lot of experiments, and you can read about this on the internet, in books, and so on. Science have actually shown us that once a personality has taken over, it actually influences the body. There's an actual patient that had that the personality was a blind personality. So when the personality took over the body, guess what? The region of the brain that's associated with vision was shut down. So the body was actually blind. He couldn't see. When the second alter took over, who was not blind, the brain resumed as normal and the patient was able to see. There's another patient who exhibited physical allergies. Anytime he drank orange juice, his body would just come up with this rash all over his body because he drank orange juice. When the second alter came up that has no problem with orange juice, there was no rash on his body. And this is the same person. So this shows us that basically our bodies can also be affected by the subconscious belief that we have. And speaking of belief, by the way, similarly, if a person believes that God is a very jealous and vengeful God, that God is someone that would zap you and burn you to a crisp if you do something that he thinks is wrong, or if you do not worship him enough, then guess what? You are going to have a very difficult time trying to forgive an injustice. So basically, the examination here tells us that basically our bodies and our subconsciousness can be affected by what we truly and intrinsically believe. And this is very important for us to try to start to understand how we can manage ourselves. So, what do we do? First of all, of course, there's nothing you can do about the dissociative disorder, those that have multiple disorders. But what we can do is we can say, okay, let us aspire to have spiritual values. This is why you would see in every religion there is a human that came to earth that is the exemplar, that is your ideal person, that we all strive to become like that prophet or messenger or whatever you want to call him. So those that have come in human forms have come for us to try to strive to become like them. So if we focus on teachings of or beliefs that are based on love, on forgiveness, on tolerance, on kindness, then we in ourselves, our subconsciousness within our 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 bodies and our conscious mind, all three will be in rhythm. And once these are in rhythm, once you have an alignment between the spiritual belief and the physical belief and the mental belief, then you are at harmony with yourself. And once you are at harmony with yourself, the level of energy will rise. And once that level of energy rises, then you will be able to come closer to the divine consciousness of God or the divine consciousness of yourself, which will give you which will open up for you the explanation of your life mission. Here, this issue of the principle of rhythm, again, that is taught as a hermetic principle, you can use it to your advantage by polarizing yourself to the degree you desire. So it's basically like controlling the pendulum that swings back and forth in an extreme. So someone that swings to you with hatred, you swing back with love and you break that pendulum. Similarly, with a belief system that is based on positivity, based on love, forgiveness, tolerance, kindness, you are able to control your energy in a very positive way. For me to summarize the teachings of this chapter, I would say that for us to discover the mission, again, we need to achieve harmony. For us to achieve harmony, we need to understand energy. What is energy? How it affects us? How do we use it to our advantage? What is the self? How do we know the self? Not cite ipsum. How do we listen to the self? And how do we examine the way we communicate and how we compare our expectations and desires? And finally, we need to see how our personality affects the self as well, understanding how a belief system can affect the physical and how can we align our spiritual, mental, and and physical capabilities by aligning the ourselves to a divine persona that we aspire to become. This is easier said than done. I know I'm just going through basics on those slides, but I believe that if you take time to go through this journey of self discovery, go through the journey of trying to find out exactly who you are by asking yourself these things, by going through these procedures, then you will start to understand what you are and who you are and how can you change that. And once you do that, it is only then you can start to formulate your life mission. Your life mission cannot be given to you by anybody other than you, because nobody knows you more than you. And basically, your life mission, the keys to that are basically, as I said, to ensure that you are in harmony between your physical, mental, and spiritual. And when you are in that harmony, then you will reach this complete alignment with the universal consciousness, or with the between your mind, your consciousness, and your subconsciousness. It is only then that we can achieve that. As I said before, the first 11 handbooks of the Core Worlds teachings are all about discovering the self. From handbook 1 to handbook 11 are all about discovering the self. Those handbooks, I believe, are probably the foundation of our teachings at Core. And it actually does not do us any good to go beyond the first 11 if we do not fully understand them, because going beyond handbook 12 upwards, if we have not already understood the self very well, you will not achieve much by going beyond handbook 11. Again, thank you very much for listening. I will try to see if I can take any questions online here. Otherwise, as I said before, feel free to send questions or comments to our Facebook page after this presentation. Let's see here. Okay. I don't think I have any. I can't see any questions. If anybody wants to send, please send here. Okay, I'll give you guys like 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and if I don't find any questions, I'll just sign off. For those of you that are signing off, thank you very much for listening. Those of you that will send a question, please do that, and I'll wait. I'll give it like 3 or 5 minutes max. Thank you. Okay, I think I have a question here. Just 1 second, trying to access it. Oh, God. Here we go. So it's Murphy's Law today. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I just trying to configure this new laptop, which didn't work. Okay. Okay, I'm having some issues with my phone as well now. So basically, please send the questions to the Core World Facebook page, and most of you have my contacts as well. Thank you very much for listening today, and have a great weekend, and all the best to everyone. Thank you. Caritas.